Organizations are embracing a modern way of working where employees are productive whilst on the move using tablets and smartphones. This means that employees need access to corporate data, apps, and other online resources whilst they're away from the office. This trend is likely to continue, and it's made easier as organizations can now manage their devices remotely from the cloud. Using a web-based management console, you can provision, manage, and secure both your devices and the access to your corporate data. You can do this using a modern IT service known as Mobile Device Management, or MDM, and Mobile Application Management, or MAM. Microsoft Intune provides both MDM and MAM. Administrators need to balance protecting data from loss, theft, and leakage, whilst at the same time allowing devices to access corporate resources. By enrolling devices into your cloud-based Intune MDM solution allows you to have the ability to implement protection and manage access. Remember, you don't need to enroll all of your devices into Intune. You can be selective. A scenario that I often see is where you use Intune to manage your mobile workforce and then continue to use traditional on-premises methods, such as Active Directory and group policy, to manage the desktop computers used by your office-based workers. Let's take a look at some of the security and configuration features offered by Microsoft Intune. Intune offers access control, including enforcing passwords and requiring multi-factor authentication. Intune works hand in hand with Azure Active Directory and provides cloud-based identity management. Device compliance to ensure your devices meet organizational requirements. For example, blocking jailbroken devices from accessing your data and restricting actions to ensure that corporate data is not leaked. You can restrict device actions, for example, blocking copy and paste and printing to stop unauthorized sharing of data. You can also use Intune to provide device inventory to gain a complete picture of which devices are being used to access your corporate resources. Device security, including the ability to remotely wipe corporate data from a device if it's been lost or reported stolen. And data protection, including blocking non-compliant apps or enforcing data encryption on a device. Intune allows you to manage the endpoint protection settings for Windows 10 devices, including the management of firewalls, encryption, and device protection settings. Windows Defender is more than just a firewall. It's a suite of protection tools offering protection against malware, virus attacks, and hacking attempts. Intune also provides mobile application management, which is used to deploy and manage apps. You can also view an inventory of apps installed on devices, including their properties and assignment status. App configuration policies allow you to customize apps. For example, you can pre-configure settings within Outlook, automatically connect to your Exchange server when first run so that your users do not need to configure Outlook. Let's take a high-level look at some of the main features of Intune's MAM functionality. Intune Mobile Application Management allows you to deploy purchased or in-house developed apps. Apps can be deployed by assigning the app to groups or to individual users. Monitor and amend app settings. For example, you'll be able to view information on app installations, including any app failures, and resolve any issues, and provide app protection to secure the data held within your apps. For example, you can restrict forwarding sensitive data and screen capturing within an app. Whilst I've referred to the functionality offered by Microsoft Intune throughout this section, there are other mobile device management solutions available. For example, AirWatch and MobileIron are pretty well-known competitors to Microsoft Intune. Intune can be purchased as a standalone subscription or bundled with either Microsoft 365 Business or an enterprise subscription, or by purchasing a standalone enterprise mobility and security subscription from Microsoft. If you don't already have a Microsoft Intune subscription, you can sign up for a 30-day trial of Intune using the link on screen. You'll need to navigate to the Microsoft Intune trial page and fill out some details. It's worth creating a trial email account, such as an Outlook.com account prior to using the Intune trial. This will help to separate the trial account from your normal business account. You should have a good understanding of the management capabilities offered by Microsoft Intune. The next step is to perform a few last-minute pre-launch checks, and then we'll be ready to start enrolling your devices into Intune. We'll walk through each step in detail shortly, but the top-level steps that need to be carried out prior to enrolling devices are as follows. The MDM authority needs to be set to Intune. You'll manage any enrollment restrictions, set up the company portal, and finally, you'll set up device management for the specific platform of mobile devices that you wish to enroll, such as Android, Apple, or Windows devices. You should then be ready to start enrolling devices. As we've seen already, there are two possible settings for the MDM authority, either Intune standalone or Intune code management with Configuration Manager for fully cloud-enabled system. You need to set the authority to Intune standalone. You may want to restrict your MDM enrollment to only specific mobile platforms. For example, if you use Apple devices and Windows 10 devices, you don't need to activate Android devices. You can also limit the number of devices that a user can enroll. The default is 5 and the maximum is 15. These settings can be configured within the device enrollment restrictions area of the Microsoft 365 device management. The company portal is included as part of your Intune subscription. It's a corporate app that you can set up to provide your users with access to data, apps, and support information. Users can also use the company portal to enroll their own devices. Administrators can configure and customize their company portal, including adding any company branding. Let's drop onto our demo tenant and take a look at how to configure the company portal. I've logged into my Microsoft 365 Admin Center and then open the Microsoft 365 Device Management portal. Under Favorites on the left-hand side, I'll select Client Apps and then scroll down. And under Setup, click Branding and Customization. Here you can see a number of options that you can use to customize the company portal. This will provide a familiar and helpful experience for your end users. You should complete the company name, a privacy statement, and also optional information such as your support information to your IT, help desk, and company identity branding. Here you can configure the theme, color, and logo. You can use one of the predefined colors or select a custom color. You can also upload your logo and run the image. Once you've completed the branding, click Save. You can also see a preview of the company portal with the changes you've made. For more information configuring and customizing your company portal, visit the link on screen. If you plan to enroll and manage devices within Intune, you'll need to configure the MDM settings for each of those platforms. Intune offers MDM functionality for Windows, Apple iOS, and Android devices because all of their manufacturers have signed up to use the Open Mobile Alliance or OMA protocols and APIs. The process of enrolling devices has become straightforward. Because both Intune and Windows devices are Microsoft products, there's already the foundations of trust between the components. During the enrollment process, a trusted certificate is created by Intune, and this is trusted by Windows devices, and this allows for these devices to be easily enrolled. To enroll Apple and Android devices, that process is a little more complex since these devices do not have a pre-existing trust relationship with Intune. For Apple devices, you'll first need an Apple ID, and then you can obtain an Apple Push Notification or APN Service Certificate from Apple and add this to Intune. You'll then deploy this certificate to the Apple devices, and they'll then trust Intune for Android devices. You'll need a Google Play account and sign up for an Android for work binding for Intune. Let's drop onto our demo tenant and take a look at how we can enable MDM enrollment for Apple and Android devices. In my Microsoft 365 device management portal, on the left-hand side, under Favorites, I'll select Device Enrollment. Under Manage, we can see Apple Enrollment, Android Enrollment, and Windows Enrollment. I'll select Apple Enrollment. Here we can see the prerequisite is that we need to create an Apple MDM push certificate. Once this is created, we can then configure the Apple configurator and manage enrollment program tokens. I'll now select Android Enrollment, and here we can see a similar prerequisite in that we need to link our managed Google Play account to Intune. We can then create work profiles for Android devices, manage enrollment options for kiosk and shared use devices, and manage BYOD or bring your own device enrollment options. Let's now configure our tenant to enable the enrollment of Apple devices into Intune management. I've signed into the Microsoft 365 device management as an Intune service administrator. Under Device Enrollment, Apple Enrollment, I'll select the prerequisite Apple MDM push certificate. We can see by the status that this has not been set up. I'll now proceed with the wizard to create our MDM certificate. I'll grant Microsoft permission to send both user and device information to Apple, and then I'll download my Intune certificate signing request. And now need to create an Apple MDM push certificate. The Apple website launches, and I'll sign in with a valid Apple ID. Next, we'll create a certificate. Accept the terms and conditions. Upload the certificate signing request from Intune. And then download the push certificate. You should note that the push certificate needs to be renewed each year. I'll save the file and then return to Intune. I'll now complete the rest of the wizard and upload the MDM push certificate to Intune. We can see that the certificate has been successfully uploaded, and I can close the wizard. We can now see the remaining Apple enrollment tasks are now available for us to use.